The elevator stopped between floors with the kind of sigh that suggests it has seen too much and filed zero complaints. The lights stayed on, the music kept playing, some cheerful saxophone loop that sounded like a tax audit trying to flirt. I was alone, holding a folder labeled Community Grants Q1, and the folder felt heavier than paper should. Not because of the numbers, because of what was inside the numbers. The promise that Brightwell Arcadia, our beloved corporate temple of glass and confidence, would keep funding the programs we had spent years building with city partners who did not have the luxury of failure. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A voicemail notification appeared before the call even finished ringing, as if the universe had already decided I was too busy to answer live. I pressed play. A voice, low and careful, said, "Maya, do not go to the 10th floor meeting today. They are setting you up. Check your calendar notes for the phrase sugar map. And whatever you do not bring your badge to the compliance desk." Then the line clicked, and the voicemail ended. The elevator jerked and resumed its climb like nothing happened. The doors opened on the 9th floor. I walked out with steady steps because dignity is cheaper than therapy and more effective in public. I was Maya Lin, 39, Director of Civic Partnerships, which is corporate for, I made miracles look like quarterly deliverables. I kept the city happy, the unions calm, the nonprofit directors hopeful, and the board convinced that goodness could be tracked in a dashboard. I also happened to know that an anonymous warning like that only came from two categories of people: someone who cared, or someone who wanted a front row seat to my downfall. I reached my office, shut the door, and opened my calendar. The 10th floor meeting was titled Future Pulse Alignment, hosted by Chloe Vance, our new Senior Vice President of Brand Strategy, who had arrived 3 months ago with a blinding smile and the unmistakable energy of someone who has never carried a folding chair to a community center. Chloe was 27, and her confidence could have powered a small city. She did not learn the business, she decorated it. She spoke in slogans. She wore white suits like she was auditioning to be an inspirational poster. She also had a family name that made the board sit straighter. Her father, Hal Vance, was a venture legend and a friend to several directors. Brightwell Arcadia did not hire Chloe. Brightwell Arcadia adopted Chloe. I checked my calendar notes. There it was, buried in a private entry I had written months ago during a grant crunch. Sugar map. My stomach did a slow, elegant flip. Sugar map was my code for people who smiled while they stole. The ones who brought cookies to staff meetings after they took your budget. The ones who complimented your work while they moved your chair out from under you. I opened my inbox. 3 new emails, all marked important. One from Human Operations, role realignment conversation required. One from Finance Controls, access update notification. One from Chloe, quick favor. I opened Chloe email first, because it is always the smiling knife that does the cleanest cut. Maya, it read, I am leading a new initiative called the Beacon Bloom Campaign. It is going to streamline our community giving so it feels more modern and scalable. I will need you to compile a complete list of your external contacts, including personal numbers and preferred communication styles. Also, please have your team prepare a short summary of all current grant negotiations. I would like it by noon. Thank you. You are such a steady presence. Steady presence. That is what you call a building before you replace it with a parking garage. I opened Finance Controls. My access to the Civic Ledger archive had been revoked. The folder where every partnership agreement, every handshake memo, every carefully balanced promise lived was now behind a locked door. Then Human Operations, beige language, soft edges, a warm bath with a drain at the bottom. In light of shifting priorities, your role may be adjusted to better align with evolving strategic direction. May be adjusted. That is what you say when you want someone to pack their desk while smiling. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling, where the sprinkler heads watched like silent witnesses. I did not panic. Panic is loud. Loud gets you escorted out. Instead, I opened the drawer on my right and pulled out a slim notebook with a black cover. On the first page, written in tidy ink, was a list of names. Not employees, not executives, people. City Budget Director Elena Park, Union Council Lead Marcus Dale, State Innovation Office Liaison Jonah Reed, Press Coordinator Tessa Bird, Community College Dean Dr. Rafiq Hamad, and at the bottom, circled twice, Caldera Bay Foundation Program Chair Lyle Sarin. Caldera Bay Foundation did not donate money. Caldera Bay Foundation moved money. Quietly, permanently, with conditions that made grown executives sweat through their linen. I wrote a new line under the list. Chloe Vance. Date, January 10th. Then I underlined it twice. My phone buzzed again. A calendar update. Future pulse alignment had been moved. Same time, same room. But the guest list changed. My name was gone. In its place, Chloe Vance, host, Beacon Bloom team, presenting, and another update beneath it, like an insult that wanted a second helping. My weekly meeting with the City Spark Youth Lab had been reassigned to Chloe. She had not just locked me out, she was wearing my work like borrowed jewelry. I stood, smoothed my blazer, and smiled at the empty room. Fine. If Chloe wanted my network, she was going to learn what networks actually are. Not spreadsheets, not branding decks, not buzzwords. Networks are favors. Networks are scars. Networks are people who pick up the phone because you once kept their program alive when no one else cared. I walked to the door, opened it, and stepped into the hall. On the wall outside, a glossy poster announced an upcoming internal showcase, the NovaGala Summit, Brightwell Arcadia, annual vision event. Chloe's face was on it, glowing like a product launch. I reached up, straightened the poster carefully, and whispered, "Enjoy your spotlight." Then I headed downstairs, not to the 10th floor meeting, to compliance. Because the voicemail had said do not bring my badge to the compliance desk, which meant someone expected I would. And if someone expected a trap, the best revenge was to hand them a mirror instead. Compliance was on the 3rd floor, tucked behind glass doors and cheerful signage that tried to make accountability look like a friendly hobby. The receptionist, a young man with perfect posture and worried eyes, looked up as I approached. "Ms. Lin," he said, too quickly, as if he had practiced. "They are expecting you." Of course they were. I held up my badge, then stopped. Slowly I slid it back into my wallet without scanning it. His eyes widened just a fraction. "Could you call in Ms. Sato for me?" I asked. "Tell her Maya is here, no badge scan." He hesitated, then nodded, and disappeared through the glass door like he had just seen a magician pull a knife from a bouquet. Ms. Sato was real compliance, the kind who had been here longer than any trend, any slogan, any executive who thought they could outlast consequences. Her first name was June. Her handshake was dry and firm. Her gaze could audit your soul. She appeared within minutes. "Maya," she said, calm. "Come in." Her office smelled like paper and peppermint tea, as if she believed in both law and comfort, but never at the same time. She closed the door. "I assume you got the notice," she said. "I got 3, I replied. "I chose the one with the least perfume." June's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Close enough to count. "You are being reassigned," she said. "Your department is being folded into brand strategy under Ms. Vance." "Chloe," I said, as if the name was a mild allergy. June tapped a folder on her desk. "There is also an inquiry." I lifted my brows. "About me?" "About Beacon Bloom," she corrected. "There are expense codes and vendor approvals that do not match the stated purpose." I let a beat pass. "And you called me in because you think I am the one who did it." June looked at me for a long moment. "No." That single word landed like a door bolt sliding into place. "I called you in," she continued, "because someone else did. Someone requested you appear at compliance with your badge and your device for an access validation procedure." My stomach tightened. Who requested it? June did not answer directly. She did not have to. I exhaled slowly. They wanted to take my laptop. They wanted to take your contacts, June said, and your archived correspondence, and any private notes tied to partnerships. There it was. Chloe was not just stealing my meetings, she was trying to harvest my history. I leaned forward. If I had scanned my badge, what would have happened? June opened the folder. A standard protocol. Your access would have been frozen for review, your device would have been surrendered temporarily. You would have been escorted out while they verified security. Temporarily, I repeated sweetly, like a coffin is temporary if you call it a nap. June's eyes flicked up. This time she smiled. Small, sharp. They assumed you would react, she said. They assumed you would rush here and prove you were panicking. They assumed wrong, I replied. June slid a paper across the desk. I cannot stop the restructure, the board signed off. Of course they did, I said. They sign anything that comes with a glossy deck and a dessert tray. But, June added, I can tell you this. There is a scheduled external visit next week, a foundation audit team. They requested a briefing with the person who built the civic pipeline. I glanced at the paper. The header read, Caldera Bay Foundation Partnership Review. My throat went dry, then steady. Caldera Bay, my favorite quiet monster. They asked for me, I said. They asked for Maya Lin, June confirmed. By name. I sat back. Chloe does not know what Caldera Bay is, does she? June shrugged. She referred to it as a donor vibe. I laughed once. It was not happy. It was the sound of a storm realizing it has permission. Caldera Bay Foundation did not tolerate theatrics. They did not reward branding. They required proof, receipts, structure, trust. If Chloe was about to walk into that meeting wearing my work like a costume, she was going to learn what happens when you try to charm a machine designed to crush liars. June watched me closely. Maya, be careful. Ms. Vance has support. She has spotlight, I said. Not support. Spotlight burns out. June sighed. What are you going to do? I stood. I adjusted my sleeve. I spoke softly. I am going to be useful, I said, in the way she has never seen. I left compliance and walked back toward my office, past the open space where interns clustered like nervous birds around a coffee machine. I caught the reflection of my face in a glass wall and saw the version of me the company had gotten used to. Calm, practical, reliable. They mistook reliability for weakness. That is the corporate version of thinking the ocean is harmless because it looks flat from a distance. My phone buzzed again. Another email from Chloe. Subject: Urgent list needed. Maya, it read. Tiny update. Please send all partner phone numbers and your personal notes about their motivations. Also, I need access to your black notebook if you have one. I heard you keep a little relationship journal. That is adorable. Adorable. I stared at the word until it stopped being language and became a dare. Then I opened a new email. To Tessa Bird, Civic Press Coordinator. Subject: Timing question. Body: Tessa, if someone tried to stage a major public partnership announcement without the person who built it, how would you make the truth arrive on time? I hit send. Then I wrote another. To Marcus Dale, Union Council Lead. Subject: Quick check-in. Body: Marcus, are you free for a call? I might need a room full of people who do not clap on command. Send. Then another. To Elena Park, City Budget Director. Subject: City Spark Continuity. Body: Elena, if a new executive tries to reroute the City Spark funding stream, I need you to ask one question in writing. Who signed the original covenant? Send. I did not send these to start a war. I sent them to wake up the floorboards. Because Chloe had done something worse than insult me. She had stepped into the structure that held the entire civic pipeline together and started tugging on threads she could not see. My office door clicked shut behind me. I pulled out the black notebook she had called adorable and opened it to a page near the back. There, tucked into a sleeve, was a sealed letter I had prepared years ago and never used. Not revenge, not drama, a contingency. The letter was addressed to the Brightwell Arcadia Board Audit Committee. Inside were copies of partnership clauses that triggered automatic withdrawal of matching funds if leadership continuity was disrupted without notice to city partners. A safety switch, a quiet guillotine. I ran my finger along the envelope edge and smiled. Chloe wanted my notes. I was going to give her something better. A lesson. By noon, the 10th floor looked like a stage crew had been paid in ego. The future Pulse alignment meeting had turned into a rehearsal for the NovaGala summit. Chloe team had rolled in a wall of screens, a ring light, and an absurd sign that read, "Beacon Bloom begins here," as if the phrase itself could generate revenue. I was not invited, which was adorable in the same way it is adorable when a toddler forbids gravity. I stayed in my office and watched the calendar updates cascade like falling glass. City Spark Youth Lab meeting, now hosted by Chloe. Community Housing Partnership call, reassigned to Chloe. State Innovation Office check-in, moved to Chloe. It was not just my work, it was my voice, my relationships, my reputation being ventriloquized by someone who thought a partnership was a branding opportunity. At 12:17 my phone rang. Marcus Dale. I answered. Marcus. His voice was gravel and calm. Maya. People are calling me. They say a Vance person reached out asking for union endorsements for something called Beacon Bloom. I rolled my chair back slowly. Did they mention City Spark? They did, Marcus said. They promised new training slots. They did not know the difference between a training slot and an apprenticeship contract. I let silence hang for a beat. Marcus, what do you know about the Caldera Bay Foundation? He whistled once. That is the one that funds half the infrastructure when the state pretends it has no money. Correct, I said. And they do not like surprises. Marcus chuckled. So someone is about to get eaten. Not eaten, I corrected. Educated. He laughed again. What do you need? I need you, I said, to keep your people steady. No public statements yet. If anyone asks, you are waiting for the covenant signer. Marcus' voice dropped. That is you. Yes, I said. And I am still alive. Marcus inhaled. They are trying to bury you. They are trying to borrow my shovel, I replied. I am going to lend them a tunnel instead. We ended the call. At 12:42, Tessa Bird replied. She wrote, If you want the truth to arrive on time, you invite the cameras early, and you put the liar on stage first. Perfect. At 1:05, Elena Park responded with a single sentence. Whoever reroutes City Spark without the covenant signer will trigger a city freeze order. I sat still and felt something settle into place, like the last puzzle piece snapping into a frame. Chloe could take my meetings. She could take my calendar. She could even take my chair if she wanted. But she could not take the covenant. She could not take the signatures. She could not take the trust that existed outside Brightwell Arcadia walls, in the messy, real world where people remembered who showed up when things were on fire. At 2:00, Human Operations scheduled my role realignment conversation. Tomorrow morning, with Chloe and a manager I had never met. That is how corporate executions happen now, with a smiling calendar invite. I forwarded the invite to June Sato, then typed 2 words above it. FYI trap. June replied in under a minute. Understood. Stay calm. Oh, I plan to. At 4:30, I went downstairs to the lobby, not for drama but for reconnaissance. The NovaGala summit banners were being installed, Chloe face everywhere. Her slogan, Reimagine the Good, printed in letters big enough to cover insecurity. A facilities worker, Ben Ortiz, nodded at me as he wheeled a ladder past. Ben had been here 8 years. He had also once helped me set up a last-minute job fair in a gym when a power outage hit the community center. Ms. Lin, he said softly. They are moving your office items tomorrow. I blinked once. They are what? He winced. I heard it from the moving vendor. They got a list. Your name is on it. Of course it was. I smiled at Ben. Thank you. He hesitated. Do you need anything? Yes, I said. Tomorrow morning, if you see a box labeled Civic Archive Personal, I need it to end up in my hands. Not in storage, not in a random closet. In my hands. Ben nodded. Done. I walked back upstairs and locked my office door. Then I did something Chloe would never think to do. I wrote a short, polite email to the board audit committee. Subject: Continuity Covenant. Notice body. Due to restructuring actions impacting civic partnership leadership, please be advised that several external agreements contain automatic continuity provisions. I have attached the relevant clauses for your review. I recommend urgent discussion before public messaging related to Beacon Bloom or NovaGala Summit. Attached, the quiet guillotine. I sent it. Then I wrote one more email. To Lyle Sarin, Program Chair, Caldera Bay Foundation. Subject: Partnership Review Confirmation. Body: Lyle, I heard you are visiting next week. I will be ready with the full covenant history and impact ledger. I also want to flag that internal leadership changes may be misrepresented to you. If you prefer, I can brief you privately before any board presentation. I sent it. Then I closed my laptop and stared out at the city through the window. The sky was darkening, and the streets below looked like veins carrying impatient light. Chloe thought tomorrow was my exit interview. Tomorrow was her audition. And I had already chosen the judges. The next morning, I arrived early, wearing a charcoal suit and the kind of calm that makes insecure people invent rumors. Human Operations had booked a small conference room with a bowl of mints on the table, because nothing says corporate empathy like sugar during a firing. Chloe arrived 5 minutes late, carrying a tablet and a grin so bright it could have powered her ring light. Behind her was Brent Holloway, a mid-level manager with slick hair and the haunted eyes of a man who says yes for a living. Maya, Chloe said, settling into her chair like it was a throne. Thanks for being flexible. We are going to do a quick reset. Brent cleared his throat. This is a collaborative conversation. That phrase always means someone is about to lose something. Chloe tapped her tablet. So, Beacon Bloom is a modern philanthropic platform. Less old-school relationship management, more scalable community storytelling. I nodded. You mean less work, more slogans. Brent coughed like he swallowed a penny. Chloe's smile tightened. We want you to shift into a support capacity, advisory only. You can help with notes, background, maybe training our new partner coordinators. I blinked. So I build the bridge and you put your name on the plaque. Chloe laughed lightly. No, that is not fair. This is about aligning strengths. Of course, I said. My strength is being quietly erased. Brent tried to interject. Maya, the organization is evolving. Yes, I replied. I noticed. It evolved into theft with a glow filter. Chloe leaned forward. Let us keep it constructive. I need your contacts list by noon. We have outreach to do. I tilted my head. No. Chloe blinked. Excuse me? I said no, I repeated, pleasant as rain. You do not get my partner's personal numbers because you replaced my calendar invites. Brent stared at the table like it might open and swallow him. Chloe's smile hardened. Maya, this is not optional. Those contacts belong to Brightwell Arcadia. That is adorable, I said, using her word with care. Do you know what a covenant signer is? Chloe frowned. A what? Brent shifted in his chair. I opened my folder and slid a paper across the table. It was the City Spark Youth Lab Covenant, signed 3 years ago, signed by me. Chloe glanced at it, then shrugged. Okay, great. We will update it. You cannot update it, I said. The city cannot accept an update without a continuity hearing, and a continuity hearing triggers a funding freeze. Brent's face went pale. Chloe tried to laugh again, but it came out thin. You are being dramatic. No, I said softly. I am being accurate. I slid another document across. Caldera Bay Foundation partnership terms. Keyline highlighted. In event of leadership discontinuity, without pre-notice to foundation, matching funds may be suspended pending review. Chloe's eyes narrowed. Why are you showing me this? Because you are about to walk onto a stage and announce Beacon Bloom at NovaGala Summit, I said. And you are planning to name yourself as lead for civic transformation. Chloe's smile flickered. Brent swallowed visibly. I informed the board audit committee yesterday, I continued. They now know your campaign expenses do not match their codes. Chloe's posture stiffened. My expenses are fine. I tilted my head. Your vendor list includes Halo House Media, a boutique agency that does personal branding packages. Your expense memo calls it community outreach storytelling. Brent made a small choking noise. Chloe's eyes flashed. Who gave you that information? I smiled. You tried to take my laptop, remember? You forgot I taught half this building how to file a clean receipt. Chloe straightened and went cold. Maya, are you threatening me? No, I said. I am warning you. There is a difference. Threats are loud. Warnings are useful. Brent finally found his voice. Chloe, maybe we should pause and consult compliance. Chloe snapped her gaze toward him, then back to me. You are trying to sabotage Beacon Bloom because you cannot handle change. I laughed once, genuinely. I handle change all the time. I just do not handle amateurs swinging hammers at load-bearing walls. Chloe leaned in, voice sharp. You think you are untouchable. I think you are unprepared, I replied. She sat back, breathing fast through her nose, then forced a smile again like she was stapling it on. Fine, she said. We will do it this way. You will take the advisory role. You will cooperate, or you will be escorted out and replaced. I nodded slowly. Then I slid one last item across the table. A printed calendar invite. Title: Caldera Bay Foundation Partnership Review Briefing. Attendees: Board Chair, CFO, June Sato, Lyle Sarin, and me. Time: next week. Location: Brightwell Arcadia Executive Boardroom. Chloe's eyes widened. Why are you on this? I kept my voice calm. Because they asked for me by name. And because when Caldera Bay walks, the city follows. And when the city freezes, the board bleeds. Brent stared at Chloe like he was watching a crown crack. Chloe's lips parted, but no words came out. I gathered my folder, stood, and adjusted my blazer. Oh, I added, almost kindly. One more thing. NovaGala Summit is in 3 days. If you announce Beacon Bloom without the covenant signer, Elena Park will trigger a city freeze order. She already has the paperwork. Chloe's face went stiff, then red, then pale again. Brent whispered, Chloe, we need to escalate. Chloe glared at me. Get out. I smiled. With pleasure. As I left the room, I did not slam the door. I closed it softly, because power does not tantrum. Power schedules. And I had just scheduled Chloe into a very public lesson. NovaGala Summit was everything Chloe loved. Lights, applause, glossy videos of smiling children with inspirational captions, and executives congratulating themselves for caring. The ballroom inside Brightwell Arcadia headquarters looked like a wedding between money and delusion. A stage at the front, giant screens, a host with a voice designed for award shows and toothpaste commercials. Chloe stood backstage in a white suit, holding a microphone like she was born holding one. Her team hovered around her, adjusting hair, smoothing fabric, feeding her lines like she was a parade float with opinions. I sat near the back, in the shadow of a column, wearing charcoal, watching the room like a chessboard. Ben Ortiz had delivered the Civic Archive personal box to my hands that morning. Inside were the original covenants, the impact ledgers, and a small sealed envelope with Caldera Bay letterhead, delivered by courier an hour before the gala. I had not opened it yet. Because timing is a language, and I speak it fluently. The host announced Chloe with a flourish. Please welcome Senior Vice President Chloe Vance, here to unveil a bold new chapter in community impact. Applause erupted, loud and obedient. Chloe stepped into the spotlight and smiled like she owned oxygen. Tonight, she began, Brightwell Arcadia is proud to introduce Beacon Bloom, our modern platform for scalable good. The screens behind her lit up with a sleek logo and a montage of neighborhoods, students, construction sites, and people who had never signed a release but were on the screen anyway, because marketing always eats first. Chloe continued, We are streamlining partnerships, elevating storytelling, and future-proofing our impact through a centralized model led by my team. There it was, my work, wearing her lipstick. I let her speak. I let her build the tower. Then I watched for the crack. It came from the side entrance. A small wave of movement, heads turning, a hush spreading like ink in water. Lyle Sarin entered with two colleagues from Caldera Bay Foundation. Lyle did not dress like an executive. He dressed like a man who could fund your entire career or end it with a phone call. Simple suit, no shine, calm eyes. Behind him, June Sato from compliance walked in, carrying a folder. And with them, Elena Park, the city budget director, looking composed and ready to sign a freeze order if needed. The board chair stiffened. The CFO leaned forward as if trying to remember how breathing works. Chloe saw them mid-sentence and faltered for the first time. Her smile stayed up, but it trembled. She recovered quickly. We are honored to have partners here tonight, she said, voice a little too bright. We believe collaboration is everything. Lyle did not clap. He simply raised a hand. The host, confused, stepped forward. Sir, we will have a Q&A after the presentation. Lyle's voice carried without a microphone. This is the Q, and this is the A. The room went silent so fast it felt like someone cut the power. Chloe blinked, still smiling, still performing. Hello, Mr. Sarin. We are thrilled you are here. Lyle nodded once. We are here because we received notice that the civic pipeline at Brightwell Arcadia changed hands without disclosure. A murmur rippled across the ballroom. Chloe laughed lightly, desperate. Oh, that is just internal alignment. Nothing has changed. June Sato stepped forward. That is not accurate. The board chair looked like he might dissolve. Lyle continued, gaze steady. Caldera Bay Foundation funds impact, not theater. We requested the covenant signer for the City Spark agreements and the Northgate Apprenticeship Corridor. We asked for Maya Lin. Chloe's smile froze. People began looking around, whispering. I stood calmly, from my seat near the back. I did not hurry. I did not wave. I simply walked down the aisle like someone returning to a seat that never belonged to anyone else. The host sputtered. And you are? Lyle turned slightly, then smiled when he saw me, as if the room had finally aligned with reality. That is Maya Lin. Cameras in the room, hired for corporate vanity, swung toward me. The spotlight that had belonged to Chloe now found my face, and the gasp that followed was deliciously quiet. Chloe tried to speak. Maya is a valued advisor, she said quickly. She supports our new model. Elena Park stepped forward, holding a slim document. If Maya Lin is not the lead covenant signer, the City Spark funds freeze at midnight. That is in the agreement. Chloe's mouth opened, closed, opened again. The CFO stood halfway, then sat back down like his legs forgot their job. Lyle looked at Chloe. You announced a platform using partnerships you did not negotiate. You claimed leadership over agreements you did not sign. That is a breach of trust. Chloe's voice shook. We are still committed to impact. This is about modernization. Lyle nodded, almost kindly. Modernization is fine, misrepresentation is not. June Sato opened her folder. There is also an active inquiry into Beacon Bloom expense coding. Effective immediately, the program is under compliance review. Chloe's face turned the color of a bad decision. The host whispered something into his mic, but no one listened. The room was locked on the moment. I stepped onto the stage, not taking the microphone yet, just standing beside Chloe, close enough for her to feel the heat of consequences. I looked out at the board, the executives, the interns, the donors, the cameras. Then I spoke, calm and clear. Beacon Bloom can exist, I said, but it cannot exist as a costume. Chloe flinched. I continued. Community partners are not props. Covenants are not captions. And trust is not scalable if you treat people like a line item. I turned slightly toward Lyle. I will brief Caldera Bay privately after this, with the full impact ledger, the covenant history, and a continuity plan that keeps the city protected. Lyle nodded once. That is what we came for. I looked back at the board chair. If you want the city to keep believing you, you will stop treating your foundation like wallpaper. The board chair swallowed and nodded, frantic. Chloe stood beside me, stiff, blinking too fast. I leaned toward her, just enough for her to hear, and kept my voice soft. You wanted my notes, I said. Here is the only one that matters. Her eyes flicked to mine. Do not mistake silence for surrender. Then I took the microphone from the stand, not from her hands, because I am not cruel. I am precise. And now, I said to the room, let us talk about real impact. Behind me, Chloe's white suit looked suddenly less like power and more like a warning sign. And in the back row, someone started clapping. Not the polite corporate kind. The kind that says the foundation just shifted, and everyone felt it.